All right, we're now to covering specific elbow strikes. I know a lot of you guys have been kind of watching these videos like, okay, listen, I thought this thing was going to start covering elbows. Well, once again, you need to create a foundation right here, not just go up and learn how to throw an elbow at someone. If you have all these other kind of support mechanisms in here, it's going to make your elbows not only more efficient, more effective, but it's just going to make everything more simple as far as its application. So thanks for hanging with me, but now we're to the strikes. Next thing we have right here is what we call our diagonal elbow. Now, a diagonal elbow is, once again, exactly what it sounds like. Instead of using more of a horizontal plane, I got a couple degrees up, maybe 15, 20 degrees. Now, as we talked about before, when we talked about, conditioning and kind of preparing our shoulder, you're going to feel it if you haven't done any kind of like, any of this stuff before. Your rotator cuff may not be as flexible, so please take your time on this. But the trajectory of it is now moving a little bit more in a downward strike right here. So when your partner holds the pad, they're going to hold it at an angle. Where are we hitting right here? Well, as far as the face right here, I'm striking down. Okay, those are the movements right there. So as I go here, this is the movements. This was more for hooking, right? Okay, but this is now down for diagonal. When he uses the pad right here, notice, boom, I'm striking down just like this. Okay, that's what we're looking for. I'll have these guys come out and show that one. Spinning elbow. Spinning elbow is a great move given the fact of it takes people by surprise. And if you can pull it off in an altercation, I highly, highly suggest it. There are some incredible mixed martial arts guys that have used the spinning elbow to really wreak havoc on people's faces. You can do the exact same thing. It just takes a little bit of practice right here. When we do our spinning elbow, there's two ways to think about it. We're either going to spin all the way around or we're going to do a half spin. Okay? The trajectory of it kind of depends on what your height is compared to your opponent. But if I bring James's face out here, okay, all right, all we're doing is that I'm making sure that I always step over what we call our center line. Okay, so if there's a line that's driven right, that's kind of drawn right in between James and I'm in a particular stance, whatever that may be, this is stepping out right here, and then this is my elbow. So notice how I do that again. I step over. Okay, and as I step over, this is now my elbow strike. What happens if I don't step over? You're not going to be able to reach the target. That's the problem. So assuming I don't step over, watch. His face is nowhere there, right? Okay, so I need to make sure that I step over right here and do that. Now he's going to go ahead and hold up the pad right here. So as I do that, I'm turning, pop. Okay, all right? I'm stepping over the half line right here, boom. Coming right here. Now, we can also do a full rotation if you want. Okay, this particular program is not going to necessarily focus on that, but I do teach that as well. Just for a point of information right here, I can still step over, I should still step over the center line, but as I do this, I'm coming all the way around. That's one option you can do as well. For this particular program, I think we're just going to focus on the half movement right here, but I'll bring these guys out here just to get in a couple reps. Spearing elbow. I'll be honest with you guys, this is one of my favorite ones. It's one that you probably don't see a whole lot, but it is a great move because not only does it take people by surprise, you can do massive damage without really putting out a whole lot of physical output on our end. Spearing elbow is something where we're going to go ahead and make sure that our arm covers our face. Just like we did with the dive entry, even though our arms kind of protected our face. Same thing right here. I like to do this. Sometimes I'll talk to my martial arts students. I'll say this is a little kind of Dracula move right here. But whatever it is, I want to cover this, okay, where it's covering the bridge of my nose. I can still see where I need to go, but the vast majority of my face is protected. And as I do this, I'm thrusting the elbow on in. Now, a lot of people, when I start teaching them this, they still want to get in some kind of little flick with the elbow, and that's not really the point, okay? So without him putting the pad on up, notice how I do this, and I'm coming in right here. Maybe I'm hitting the throat, just as an example, right? But if I'm thrusting the point of my elbow, boom, right in right here, massive amount of damage. I did nothing more than take a, really just a step slide in, right? Okay, and that's all we want to focus on. So if I go here, boom. So I'm going to have Shad hold up the pad right here. And once again, you're not going to hear a loud boom on the pad or anything like that. But I'll tell you right now, whether you're going to make contact on the solar plexus or let's say the the throat or the nose, massive amount of damage, boom, just by doing that little step and move right here, boom. Okay, I'll bring these guys in just to show you a couple more reps. Good. A little higher with the arm. There you go. Good. Cover your face a little bit more. Perfect. That's what I want. What's the next one? Well, the next one that we have right here is what we call a reverse elbow. Reverse elbow is when we're partially turned on someone and we can use them with, think about it, it's kind of like the backhand of the elbow strikes right here, okay? All right, so without the pad being on up, I'm simply in here in this position. It's not necessarily a rear elbow, we're gonna get into those, but it's kind of used where I'm kind of just a little bit turned a little bit right here, okay? I might even have access to his arm, I'm grabbing his arm, and maybe that's the movement right there, okay? But that is a reverse elbow that we want to do. So when we're practicing right here, you can use the person's arm if you want to, or not. Person's going to hold the pad up. If you want to use the access of the arm, have their arm just like this. I can grab it, boom, okay, all right? Just like this, okay? Or you can put the person's arm down, be in a little bit closer proximity, use it again, boom, just like this. Not necessarily a rear elbow, a little bit more of a side elbow, but we call this a reverse elbow. You guys get a couple more reps. Nice.